ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Dolan decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Hey guys, this is Danielle, your Celestial Piper of Soldier of the Watch. Just before we start this video, I wanted to remind you to hit the like button below, please. And if you're not subscribed to my channel already, please go ahead and click the subscribe button down below, and then it'll give you a choice of how you want to be notified, and make sure you click on that, so that way when I have new videos, you'll know. Okay, so today's topic is on the black budget projects of the CIA. Now, the last video that I had mentioned a bunch of different topics that I said that I would bring out some videos for you guys. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So I got a lot of my information off of an article called, the website's called militarytruth.org, and then the topic, the black budget. I will be leaving a lot of what I'm talking about, all the sources that I've received this information, down below in the details screen. So, multiple studies have emerged showing that a very small group of people and the corporations they run basically have control over the world's resources. According to the estimates of some, the U.S. government alone classifies up to 500 million pages of documents every single year for the purpose of protecting national security. Our world is drenched in secrecy, no doubt, right? And it's reached a point where we don't really know what's happening on our planet. Our main source of information, get this, is corporate media. This is a big problem. Yes, it is. And that is why it drives me nuts when the sheeple follow whatever the mainstream news says. It's actually making me start losing my hope in humanity. Who were these politicians? Well, I'm not going to pronounce his name right, but I will spell it out for you. Senator Daniel K. Inouye, or I don't know, Inouye. Somebody please help me, because I can't pronounce crap. The highest ranking Asian American politician in United States history, serving the Democratic Party from 1963 until his death in 2012, stressed the fact there exists a shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances and free from the law itself. Look in the details screen, like I said, below. You'll see a video, a YouTube video actually, with him saying this exact thing, and probably more. Decades ago, the very British MP wrote that the world is government by very different personages to what is imagined by those who are not behind the scenes. That's Collingsby, Book 4, Chapter 15. It's page 131. The link to the book, again, down below. The 26th U.S. President, Theodore Roosevelt, made a hard-hitting statement about the secret government, revealing that behind the ostensible government sits enthroned an invisible government owing no allegiance and acknowledging no responsibility to the people. You also can find some more quotes. There's a link down below for that at www.collectiveevolution.com. And if you want to do any research on that, go ahead and check it out below. So the black budget. Some of you may remember a few years ago when Edward Snowden, a former intelligence contractor, had leaked the very first documentation that provided the existence of clandestine black budget operations. And these were programs that are extremely classified, dealing with technology, information, and more. Do we really need this leak in order to believe that black budget programs operate in secrecy? Well, most of us, at least, that are watching this right now, no. Many people will tell you that the existence of black budget programs was obvious, and that that we didn't even need an official documentation to prove it. But this still helps. The United States has a history of government agencies existing in secret for years. So the National Security Agency, NSA, was founded in 1952. Its existence was hidden until the mid-1960s. Even more secretive is the National Reconnaissance Office, which was founded in 1960, but remained completely secret for 30 years. Wow, I'm shocked. These are special access programs, also known as SAP. These programs do not exist publicly, but they do indeed exist. They are better known as deep black programs. A 1997 U.S. Senate report described them as so sensitive that they are exempt from standard reporting requirements to Congress. These are special access programs. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the same spot. The Washington Post revealed that the black budget documents report a staggering $52.6 billion that was set aside for operations in the fiscal year 2013. Although having this type of documentation in the public domain is also proving the existence of these black budget programs, the numbers seem to be off according to some statements made by some very prominent people who have been involved in the defense sector for years. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that these programs are not using billions of dollars, but trillions of dollars, not honestly, that are unaccounted for. Here is a statement given by Canada's former Minister of National Defense, Paul Hellyer, in 2008. It is ironic that the U.S. would begin a devastating war, allegedly in search of weapons of mass destruction. Oh, we knowing what war this is, right? When the most worrisome developments in this field are occurring, in our own backyard. So it is ironic that the U.S. should be fighting monstrously expensive wars, allegedly to bring democracy to those countries, when it itself can no longer claim to be called a democracy, when trillions, and I mean thousands of billions of dollars, have been spent on projects which both Congress and the Commander-in-Chief know nothing about. There are large amounts of unaccounted for funds, surprise, surprise, going into programs that we, the people, know nothing about. There have been several congressional inquiries that have noted billions and trillions of dollars that have gone missing from the Federal Reserve System. Well, how about them apples, huh? On July 16, 2001, in front of the House Appropriations Committee, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld stated, "The financial system of the Department of Defense are so snarled up that we cannot count for some $2.6 trillion in transactions that exist, if that's believable." We don't really hear about black budget programs or about people who have actually did research on these programs. However, the topic was discussed in 2010 by Washington Post journalists Dana Priest and William Arkin. Their investigation lasted approximately 2 years and concluded that America's classified world has become so large, so unwieldy, and so secretive that no one knows how much money it costs, how many people it employs, and how many programs exist within it, or exactly how many agencies do the same work. Within the Pentagon aviation, journalist Bill Sweetman estimated that approximately 150 special access programs existed that weren't even acknowledged. Even the highest members of government and military officials know about these crimes. Even the highest, they don't know about them. So Sweetman determined that most of these programs were dominated by private contractors. For example, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, etc. And he had no idea as to how these programs were funded. Dwight Eisenhower, former 5-star U.S. general, and for those of you that don't know, that is the highest possible rank, okay? And he was president of the United States. He warned us about secrecy and the acquisition of unwarranted influence within the Department of Defense. And with his farewell speech, he had mentioned it. In the Council of Government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential disaster of the rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. If this was not a warning and disclosure, I don't know what was. Eisenhower warned us about the influence of the military-industrial complex and the influence and power it's capable of. After Eisenhower, the next and only other president that blew the whistle on secrecy beyond the government was President John F. Kennedy. May he rest in peace. In one of his most famous speeches, in which he mentions the military-industrial complex as seen in the opening of this video, and then we never saw him again. The amount that U.S. sets aside for sensitive operations each year is not allowed to be published for eyes outside of the intelligence community. Guys, the government is supposed to be working for us. So wouldn't that mean that we should be privy to this info? Yeah, duh. However, so many people just go along with it. And because of so many years of that and just trusting that the government isn't doing anything wrong, they're nothing but sheeple. Again, drives me crazy. We're in an age where U.S. is having a difficult time keeping sensitive information under wraps. Why? Because of us truthers bringing it all out. And although there's an abundance of blatant information for the world to wake up to, that which is still kept under tight wraps has also become more transparent. Many phenomena previously labeled as merely a conspiracy theory are now surfacing as true and verifiable day after day. Okay? And in my opinion, makes these secret societies look completely stupid. Yet we still find so many asleep. Sometimes, and again, I'm going to say this, it really makes me lose hope in humanity. So, could some of these black budget programs be dealing with UFOs? Well, there is a great amount of evidence to suggest that they do, and possibly even extraterrestrials. Yes, ETs. Documents from NSA prove that UFOs and extraterrestrials are of high interest to the agency. I also would like to mention that there is an overwhelming amount of evidence to suggest that these black budget programs deal with matters beyond our world. Gary McKinnon, who in 2002 was charged by the U.S. government and arrested for performing what is said to be the biggest military computer hack of all time, and there is a link below, he had also shed light on this fact and thousands of previously classified documents and statements from high-level government and military personnel. The world within our own world must be quite fascinating. The fact that we are living in the time of transparency must mean that the truth cannot stay hidden forever. As the Bible states, the truth will set you free. Black budget programs also deal with, for example, deep underground and under ocean military bases. You can read the article below for more information on that. There's under ocean military bases. There's more than just one Area 51. Worlds within worlds. Excerpt from book AD, After Disclosure, written by Richard Dolan and Bryce, Zabel. And then Richard Dolan's Thought of the Breakaway Civilization. According to a former NSA scientist who spoke with the authors, the NSA was operating computers during the mid-1960s with a processing clock speed of roughly, get this, 650 megahertz. Put that in perspective, guys. It took 35 years for personal computers in the consumer market to reach that speed. Interesting enough, in 1965, there were no personal computers at all, and immediately the near-fatal Apollo 13 mission in 1971 comes to mind with its reliance on slide rulers by mission specialists to guide the damaged NASA spacecraft back to Earth. When presented with this image, the NSA scientist shrugged and stated that secret computational capabilities were too important to share with NASA. This is NASA, guys. So, in regards to computers, the National Security Agency, NSA, was an amazing 35 years ahead of the rest of the world. This leads one to wonder, what is computer powers, or what kind of computer powers they have today? Well, we do know that a lot of what they tell us, they really are about 50 to 60 years ahead, more than what is said to us. So, just keep that in mind. Another example was the U.S. airstrike against Libya in 1986. The raid employed an F-111 fighter aircraft. It left out of the mission, however, they didn't put this in there basically. They left it out. F-117A Nighthawk, better known as the stealth fighter. You know, that triangular object that might look like a UFO to many people, amongst many things that people may see in the sky. It may actually be our own military and not something out of this world. Okay. It had been operational since 1983. No way. But was still classified in 1986. In a form of logic, both perverse and rational, the F-117A was so radically advanced that keeping it secret was more important than using it for the military mission. Given the mixture of a treasure chest of government money and private connections, the likelihood exists that 6 decades later, there is a clandestine group that possesses technology that is vastly superior to that of the mainstream world, the ability to explore areas of our world and surroundings presently unavailable to the rest of us, scientific and cosmological understandings that give them greater insights into the nature of our world, and significant built of the grid infrastructure partially underground that affords them a high degree of secrecy and independence of action. This might well qualify them as a separate civilization, one that has broken away from our own, above the law. In effect, a breakaway civilization, still interacting with our own. Its members probably move back and forth between the official reality of what we are supposed to believe and the other reality, which encompasses new truths and challenges. So that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you feel this is great information for others to hear, please go ahead and share this video on whatever social media platform you desire to share it on. Don't forget to hit that like button and also subscribe, and make a choice of how you want to be notified so that you'll know when I have a new video out. So guys, this is Danielle, your Celestial Piper, a Soldier of the Watch. You know I love you. I give you hugs. And remember, the truth will set you free. Until we meet again, my friends. Peace out, peeps.